Hello guys. It has been very heavily requested that I show you my custom build hacks that I've used in my past commentary videos. So today that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you all of my realistic custom build hacks, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, let's get into it. So the first one is a custom window design, and I did one of them in my recent video and it had this sort of arch. To do this, all you need is the square window and you're gonna resize it. For all of these hacks, by the way, you're gonna need the transform tool. You're gonna take the small plain arch and draw it across the top of the window. For all of this, I use the medium grid just because it's a lot easier for things to snap into place and it to be even. And then I'm just using transform to push it in. And then after that, to kind of divide the window in half, I use the small rod. I'm just drawing a straight line down and then a straight line to the side. Don't worry if it's not perfectly even or centered because that's what the transform tool is for, and you're just going to adjust it to where you want it to be. And then after that, I use a small grid and I use two small rods and I draw them diagonally. And then you can obviously adjust this with the transform tool to make it even because when using small grid, it's a little messed up. And then to make the outside look better, I use a small square beam and I basically outline it, but you want to start from the bottom. So outline the bottom part and the top with the medium grid and then connect it on the sides. And then you color it and that's all that is. It looks very cute. This is me doing a similar design, again, using the small square beam because you can do it in any order. And then you want to take a small rod and then draw to make the squares inside the window too. But yeah, this is very easy and pretty self-explanatory. The next one is custom counters. Basically, all you need for this is the cube basic shape and you're gonna resize it to the size of a counter. I usually make it thinner than the actual Bloxburg counter just because it's a preference of mine. And then I take a small square beam and I draw lines all the way across the basic shape. And I use medium grid for this too. And then for the middle parts, I switch to small grid and then I draw the lines in between the gaps to make it just more stripey. I don't know what you call that. And you can adjust it by using the transform tool to make them perfectly even. And then finally, I take a beveled cube and I put it on top because this is going to be the counter part and you just resize it to fit over the counter. And the way I make it more dimensional is I take the little lines and I color it a slightly different shade than the original counter. I usually make it a little darker and it just adds a nice dimension. And yeah, that's the counter. It is copy pastable. You can spam it all around your build. This one is basically a lower level porch. I don't know what you call it, but you get the idea. Basically, the first thing you want to do is cut out the ground with the basement. And I usually recommend on the sides of the house to do at least 2 grid squares and then maybe in the front 3 to 4 just so you have room. And then you're going to take a cube and you're going to resize it fully as wide as it can be. Make the height slightly below the actual ground level just because we're going to add stairs as the transition between the actual ground and the basement, and you're just going to put that all around. Once you fill in the entire gaps, you want to draw a wall around the basement just so you're able to place the stairs, and you're going to resize the stairs obviously to be as wide as they can so you can save up on items and just place it all around the plot. For the porch part, you basically can draw it where you want the porch to be. And this is just me adding stairs so you can walk up to the house. Then you're going to take a square window, but make sure it's not the one with the window. Make sure it's just the frame, and you're going to resize it thin and wide. And then you're going to take a clear basic shape, and once you have that, you're going to stick the decal on it, which looks like this weird little fencing thing, and you're going to place it inside the frame. Once you do that, you can put it under the porch where the wall is, and you can add a porch and do whatever you please to make it look a little better. Here's how mine turned out. This was from my starter house renovation, and it looks super cute. The next one I get asked about a lot is how I do my custom flowers, and this one is super simple. So first, obviously put down a decal and always use the double-sided decal because this flower is going to try to look three-dimensional. Once you do that, then you can place down your bases and then take a clear transparent basic shape and you're going to resize it down all the way so this way you can't see it. And then once you do that, you're going to take the decals and place it on the basic shape on both sides so there's 2 decals being placed. And then from there, you can just use the transform tool and move it up into the vase and just adjust it so it looks the most natural as it can be. And usually depending on the size of the flower is what vase you want to use. So for my big bouquet, I used my tall vase that was kind of bigger. And then for my tiny little flowers, I used a little baby vase. It's kind of just based on what you think is best in whatever decal you're using. So just try to make it look realistic if you can. The next one is my custom stools. And this is super easy. All you need is a simplicity stool. And then you're going to take a cube basic shape and you're going to resize it so it's the width of the stool. And then you're just going to transform it up and put it on the stool. I like to tilt it a little bit just because I feel like it looks more natural, and just color it to match and boom, that's an easy stool. Another design I also do is taking the same stool and then I draw a design on the top. I use a thin square beam and I basically just draw a grid. And I would recommend just outlining the outside first and then doing the inside. So when I outlined the outside, I used the medium grid, and then when I did the inside, I used the small grid. And to make everything even, you're going to use the transform tool and push it down so it fits and everything is level together. And you can color it however you like. I usually try to make it a little bit darker so there's a contrast. And yeah, it's like a cute little waffle chair. This was another one that was requested. It was how I got the bow on the plate. So the first thing you need is a basic shape, and always use a transparent cube. This way you don't see it because this is just going to be what we use to put the bow into place. The bow is a seasonal item, so if you don't have it in your inventory, unfortunately you can't get it until Christmas time, which is why I love stocking up on these bows because they're just so perfect for any build. The next thing you're gonna do is put the bow on the basic shape. So as you can see, it's hanging up right there. It's hanging onto it. I'm just gonna move the bow on the table so I can transform it. Now we're gonna use the transform tool, and then you hit the red little circle and we're just going to move it onto the plate. I would suggest using medium grid just because it's a lot easier to move the bow around and it's not super sensitive. And then you could switch to small grid to get it perfectly on the plate, just like that. And that's all it is. It's just transform tool with the basic shape. And now you have bows for dinner. This one is a custom tree. This footage is Isaac's or Faulty, so check him out. He makes fantastic videos, guys. I promise I do not have a gun to my head. He's gonna show you how to make the detailed tree, and I'm gonna voice it over. And then if you don't want to spend all this effort and time on it, you can just do my tutorial, which will be after this one, which is basically the lazy tutorial. So the first thing he's doing is taking a basic shape and sizing it down, just so we have a base of the tree. Then he's taking vertical cylinders and also sizing those down and making them really tall, since this is going to be the tree bark, branch, whatever you want to call it, the base. He then took a horizontal wedge and sized it up just to make it look more natural as a tree branch. And he's just stacking them and making them smaller as he keeps going up, and then copies and pastes it so it looks like branches. And he uses the transform tool to adjust it so it looks like a tree, because trees are very unnatural. Well, they're natural, but like they're not perfectly aligned, so kind of just spamming it all around and curving it so it looks more like a tree. And then after that, he's taking a double-sided decal and sticking it all over the tree branches. And then to make it look more full, he made another smaller branch with basic shapes once again and just stuck decals on it and then transformed it back into the tree. And he's pretty much just filling in all the branches as much as he can. For some of the decals on the tree though, he did take a transparent cube, size it down, and stuck the double-sided decal on it. So this way you could just transform the cube with the decals onto the tree and basically put them anywhere, as he's doing here. And when you're placing the decal, you know, just try to make it look a little unique. And then after that, he's just painting the tree branches a wood-looking color. And voila, you have a beautiful tree. This one is definitely a lot more money, so if you want a cheaper version, here is my low-effort tree. We're gonna take a vertical cylinder. Then I'm gonna make it super skinny and resize it up a bit so it's kind of like a tree height. I just color as I go, so I'm just gonna color this right now. Then I'm gonna take another vertical cylinder, size that down as well. But this one's gonna be shorter, and I'm pretty much just going to place it on top of the tree so it looks like a little branch. It doesn't really matter if it's sloppy or not because trees kind of look like this in real life. They're always going in random directions. Next, I'm gonna take a transparent cube and I'm just gonna resize it all the way down. The code for the decal should be on the screen, but this is the tree decal I'm using. I'm gonna put it on this basic shape right here. I'm putting it on both sides so this way it's three-dimensional. I kind of like to be sloppy with it, so I'm just going to copy paste it again. But I'm going to make these smaller this time, so there's some variety. And then we're just going to transform that into the tree again. Kind of so how the bottom is bigger than the top. And then I'm going to put one more. I'm just going to copy paste the little transparent cube, and I'm going to make this super big now. And we are going to put this on the bottom to fill the base a little more. And then I'm just rotating it so there's more dimension. You could stop here if you want, or if you wanted to add a little more detail, you could just take the large rods and just draw branches and then just resize it down. And then you could just stick it in there. And now it just looks more tree-like. You could spam those all around, but I think it looks good as it is right now. It is very skinny and it looks a little malnutrition, but it gets the job done. The next one is a custom MacBook screen, and for this, you're gonna put down your laptop and make sure you put it in the spot you want to keep it. And then you're gonna take a cube and you're gonna resize it down. Use a transparent one so you can't see it. Then after that, I'm putting a two-sided decal on the wall. I would get out of build mode and change the decal right away, just so you can get an idea of how it's gonna look compared to the computer screen. So as you can see, I put the decal right above the computer and I'm resizing it so it looks somewhat exact to the screen sizing. Grab the decal and stick it on the cube. And then from there, you can use the transform tool and push it into the computer screen. The computer itself is actually kind of tilted, so you can adjust the slant of the decal with the red slider. Just keep messing around until the decal goes behind the white outline of the computer. And what I did to make sure nothing's sticking or clipping through was I just kept moving my camera back and forth to see if any of the decal was clipping through. And that's just how you could check if it's perfectly aligned with the computer. Super easy. So this is how I made my elevated fireplace. So obviously the first thing you need is the basic fireplace, and just put that down. I'm going to take the standard square beams, using the thin one specifically, and I'm drawing an outline of the fireplace using the small grid, so you can kind of just eye it out and do it how you want. And then I'm coloring it to match the fireplace, which in my case it's white, but I did make it slightly darker just so it would stand out more in dimension. And then after that, I'm taking the medium grid with the same thin square beam and I'm tracing the outside of the fireplace, and I'm also repeating that on the inside part where the logs are. After that, I take a transparent cube and I size it all the way down down. I'm using this two-sided decal, and I put this fireplace cover on it. I'll put the code on the screen, and I just put that onto the transparent cube. And then I'm using the transform tool to move it into the fireplace. You can kind of do this however you prefer, but I moved it all the way back so the border of the fireplace was still showing. Next, I take a heavy long blanket and I resize it to fit the size of the fireplace. And I made it pretty thin, so it looks like a placemat or whatever you want to call it. And I'm just using the transform tool to move it around and make it fit better. And yeah, that's really it. It's a super simple addition to your already existing fireplace. It just makes it look more unique. This one is a custom door, which I did in my dream house video a while ago. The first thing you're going to take is a cube and you're going to resize it. I make it the thinnest it can possibly be, and then I stretch it out a little bit to around the size of a door. And then I take another basic shape and I size it down super tiny and put it on the two sides of this cube, because this is going to be the framing of the door on the sides. Taking another basic shape and putting it on top, so this will be the top part of the door. After that, I take a small square beam and I'm just outlining the door so it just looks more dimensional. And as always, I do it from the bottom and the top, and then I do the sides just because it just connects better. I then outline also the middle part of the door with the same square beam, and I'm using medium grid for that. And now I'm gonna draw the little detail of the X on the bottom of the door. And for this, I use small grid, which you kind of just eye out yourself and draw a square. And then same for the X, just try to make it look as equal and proportionate as you can. To make the window framing in the door, you're also gonna take a thin square beam and you're gonna draw the lines, so one up and then one across. It doesn't matter if it's too long because you could just transform it and push it in and then no one will know. And then I'm just using the transform tool to move it and make it all centered. And then after that, I'm taking a clear basic shape cube and resizing it to fit inside of that framing as the window. I'm just gonna repeat all of the outlining and the tracing parts for the back of the door just so it matches the front. But if this is just decorative, you can literally just stick it on the wall and no one will see the back. Now this last one is actually not my build hack, but I've used it in my videos so people keep asking me about it, and it's how I made this custom chair. And this is a TikTok hack, so I'm gonna link the video in the description in case you want further instruction on it. So first off, you're gonna need a clear basic shape and you're gonna size it down, just make it flat. And this is gonna be what you use to copy and paste the chair. And then you're gonna put a regular cube sized down as a little square on top of this clear cube. On top of that, you're gonna put the beveled cube, and then you're gonna make it the same dimension as the cube, because this is going to be the cushion. Using the medium grid, you're just gonna size it up so this way it's not on the clear cube, it's kind of floating in the air. Then you're gonna take another transparent cube and we're gonna size it so it looks like the backing of a chair. And this is where we're gonna put that decal with the straw looking design. So once you enter in the decal code, you could stick it on the chair. And this is just me resizing it to make sure it fits properly. And then after that, I take the small square beam and I'm basically outlining that square to give it framing. So this way the decal isn't clipping above or outside of this chair, so it looks more uniform and clean. I ended up separating the shape from the chair just so I could trace it better and make sure it was all even. And then I'm just placing it back on the cube. And then I did tilt it a little bit so it looks more natural, and you just use the red slider. After that, you're gonna use that small square beam again and trace the outsides of the chair as a sort of armrest. And then once you do that, you're gonna lift it up with the medium grid, so this way they're raised because it wouldn't be on the cushion. And you can adjust everything to your liking. So this is me just kind of fixing it and tweaking everything so it looks perfectly clean. And then after that, you're gonna draw the legs of the chair, which is just two diagonal lines. For this, I did use small grid, so I'm just drawing these out and then using transform tool to properly shape it. And you just do this on both sides. Just try to do it the best as you can. I don't think anyone's gonna notice if it's uneven anyway. And then this is just me adjusting the chair to make sure everything is fitting and nothing is clipping through. And then once you do that, you can just fully color it and make it however you like. I did add a pillow on mine. Anyway, I hope you guys liked all my little furniture tips, whatever you want to call these build hacks. I will probably do a TikTok hacks one in the future again, but if you'd like more of these or the things that I build in my videos, just let me know what else you'd want to see a tutorial on, and I will try to do it. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
You know you love me. XOXO.
French Rose's girl.